A dancing mascot, a budget pharmacy empire, a cultural icon, or even a political figure. Across Latin America, Dr. Simi is everywhere. He's in your city street signs, he's dancing on your corner, he's in your memes, your concerts, and even your protests. But behind the friendly, mustached face lies a story of power, a story of controversy, and a healthcare system in crisis. How did a discount pharmacy chain become a symbol of both accessibility and exploitation? This is the history, the controversy, and the strange social importance of our favorite, Dr. Simi. Before I get into this video, I also wanted to note that this was in no way sponsored, asked for, or brought upon by the Farmacias Similares company. I truly just have a strange interest in knowing the history of the strange, funny, and quirky elements of Latin American cultures, and I hope that you enjoyed this deep dive along with me today. So let's learn a little bit more about Farmacias Similares and the iconic Mexican Dr. Simi. In order to really crack into the story of Dr. Simi, we first need to start at the beginning, with the González Torres family. To make it clear, this family has a long history in the pharmaceutical industry, with several members involved in various aspects of the business. Their influence in the sector began well before the founding of Farmacias Similares, and continues to this day. The family's roots in the pharmaceutical industry trace back to the early 1900s. They were pioneers in the distribution of medicines and healthcare supplies. But where the story of Farmacias Similares really becomes important is when the patriarch of the family, Víctor González Torres, gets involved in the story. Although the González Torres family was well involved in the pharmaceutical industry for pretty much the entirety of the 1900s, it wasn't really until the 1980s that Víctor's involvement in this company became so important. In the 1980s to the 1990s, Mexico was facing several economic crises, most notably including the 1982 debt crisis and the 1994 tequila crisis. This led to significant currency devaluations, as well as a significant drop in purchasing power. The government at the time, under pressure from international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, implemented neoliberal reforms, including privatizing state industries and reducing public spending on healthcare. And healthcare is where the story of Dr. Simi in Mexico becomes very important. Due to the economic struggles at the time in Mexico, the Instituto Mexicano de Seguro Social, or the IMSS, and the Instituto de Seguridad y Servicios Sociales de los Trabajadores del Estado were the main public healthcare providers at the time in Mexico. But unfortunately, due to the economic situation of the country at the time, these were severely underfunded, and for that reason, inefficient, which of course led to long waiting times and inaccessibility to important medicine in Mexico at the time. Many people, especially those in the informal economy of Mexico at the time, pretty much had little to no access to their important medical needs, which led to an even more severe problem of monopolies. During this time in Mexico, the pharmaceutical market was basically controlled by a very small amount of multinational companies, meaning that patents were controlled and brand name medications were set at an insane, obviously unreachable price for the average person. In addition to this, generic medications, aka non-brand medications, were virtually impossible to get your hands on, and regulations by the healthcare systems in Mexico at the time truly did favor patented drugs over the generics. So basically, pharmacies were selling name brand drugs at inflated prices, people couldn't even get access to the generic brands, overall creating a huge monopoly and an issue in Mexico at the time to reach your basic healthcare needs. Unlike other countries at the time, like Brazil or India, Mexico basically at the time did not promote the use of generic drugs, and therefore many consumers were truly unaware of the fact that generic brand medications and drugs were just as, if not more useful and efficient as name brand drugs. Going back to our boy Víctor González Torres saw an opportunity in this moment in Mexico. Clearly we have the issue that name brand drugs are not highly available, highly priced, and under monopoly, while the average Mexican citizen wasn't really able to pay or get access to this medication. With his aim of solving this issue in general, in 1997, Víctor decided to bring to the market Farmacias Similares. He started this by focusing his campaigns widely on the generic working class of Mexico, as he believed that the pharmaceutical companies at the time in Mexico were exploitative, and so he wanted to solve this problem. His vision, lo mismo pero más barato, aka the same but cheaper. Farmacias Similares became the first large-scale chain of pharmacies in Mexico to focus almost exclusively on generic medications. These generics were often sold at a fraction of the price of the brand name medications, obviously breaking the standards of the pharmacy industry at the time, and making healthcare far more affordable for people who couldn't afford the high costs of brand name drugs. The idea sounds great, right? Break the pharmacy industry, bring medications to the masses of Mexico. Where do things go wrong? We'll get into that. Continuing on the story of Dr. Simi, in its early years, Farmacias Similares established itself as the disruptor of the pharmaceutical market. I mean, imagine these big companies weren't too happy that our boy Victor came in and broke the industry. The company offered a much needed alternative to high prices of branded medicines and quickly attracted a loyal customer base. To ensure its growth, Farmacias Similares operated on a lean business model, basically meaning that it kept its operation costs low by avoiding the expensive overhead associated with larger pharmacies. The company's direct-to-consumer marketing strategy, combined with its pricing model, enabled it to expand rapidly. And when I say rapidly, I mean rapidly. And by the early 2000s, just a few years after the company was established, Farmacias Similares was one of Mexico's leading pharmaceutical companies. I mean, literally imagine at the end of the 1990s deciding you just want to make a pharmaceutical company and within the next 10 years being the biggest in your industry. I mean, this truly business-wise was something that Mexico had never seen in the pharmaceutical industry. Now, understanding the history and the importance of this company in Mexico, we also need to break down one of the most important elements of Farmacias Similares, which of course is our friend here, the Dr. Simi mascot. When Victor González Torres founded Farmacias Similares in 1997, his mission of course was to provide affordable, high-quality generic medicines to the general public. However, in a competitive pharmaceutical market, González Torres realized that the company needed a way to distinguish itself and build trust, especially with lower-income customers. To make the company feel more approachable and human, the mascot was then created. Using a fun and catchy mascot truly is something that has become more and more important in the age of social media as well. If we think about it, the first example that comes to my mind is the infamous Duolingo bird, which has become known and loved by so many and its own character outside of the Duolingo universe. So many companies do this. I mean, think of Chuck E. Cheese as well. If it weren't for Charles Entertainment Cheese, I don't know that Chuck E. Cheese would be in the place that it is. Having a mascot and a familiar face that creates almost a character for a brand is something so important when it comes to marketing. And Farmacias Similares truly achieved this over the years. The character of Dr. Simi was designed as a cartoonish figure that personified the image of a friendly, approachable doctor. The mascot is typically depicted with round glasses, a white mustache, and a white lab coat, evoking the classic image of a well-meaning, trustworthy medical professional. Dr. Simi's design was intended to make healthcare feel less intimidating and more accessible to the public, being that many children are, of course, afraid of the doctor. Dr. Simi truly infantilized and made fun the experience of going to the pharmacy. Of course, Dr. Simi's name being a shortened version of Farmacias Similares, his introduction to the brand was an instant success, and a mark of change between the brand being just a pharmacy to becoming literally a cultural icon across Latin America. When Dr. Simi was introduced, he was primarily used in Farmacias Similares marketing efforts. The mascot immediately resonated with the public because of his relatable, non-threatening image. Unlike the often impersonal and corporate imagery used by other pharmaceutical brands, Dr. Simi connected with people on a personal level. Because when I'm buying my drugs, I want to feel a connection to this guy. After the early creation of the Dr. Simi character, an even more important creation was born: the Dr. Simi Plushie universe. After creating the character of Dr. Simi, the Simi universe knew that not only could they make this character, they had to sell it. In the early 2000s, Farmacias Similares expanded their use of Dr. Simi by introducing the Dr. Simi plush dolls as a promotional item. These toys were given out to customers who purchased products in the store, and the dolls quickly became collectibles. Yeah, I'm no stranger to that. And they even became popular with their own adult audience. Kind of like Disney adults, but Dr. Simi adults. In fact, Farmacias Similares even went as far to make their own version of Disneyland, Similandia, which opened in 2023 in Mexico City. This further solidified Dr. Simi as a beloved mascot in Mexico, taking him from just a pharmaceutical doctor to truly kind of like an important element in the representation of Mexican culture. Which leads me to an even more important point about Dr. Simi and his cultural relevance across Latin America. Being that Dr. Simi was such a likable and collectible character, his personality and relatability allowed Dr. Simi to transcend his role as a corporate mascot, becoming an important cultural figure in Mexico. His popularity surged as people began to see him not only as a symbol of affordable healthcare, but also as an emblem of Mexican pride and national identity. And what does a brand want more than being recognized for something beyond their brand itself? Going back to my Duolingo example, when people think of Duolingo now, they think of the bird. When people think of Farmacias Similares now, they think of Dr. Simi. And that's exactly what the brand wanted. Street performances and mascot appearances in many parts of Mexico, particularly in urban areas, dancing Dr. Simi mascots began performing outside of Farmacias Similares locations, adding a fun and engaging element on the shopping experience. In addition to the dancing mascot, the plush toys became so iconic. Its widespread popularity led it into being a pop culture icon, with people seeking out the toys even when they had no intention of visiting the pharmacy itself. And people exchanged them literally like trading cards. I mean, at the time you could have said, hey, I'll trade you my sailor Simi for your basket Simi. And these plush dolls gained an even more large reputation in Mexico when they started becoming an integral part of concerts that were done in Mexico. One of the most remarkable aspects of Dr. Simi's rise to fame occurred in the realm of concerts. Over time, fans attending concerts by international artists started bringing their own Dr. Simi plush toys to throw on the stage as a fun, unexpected gesture. Fans of these concerts would literally make Dr. Simi plush toys that looked like the artist that was performing. Artists like Harry Styles, Rosalia, The Killers, and Dua Lipa have been showered with Dr. Simi dolls at their concerts in Mexico. This has turned Dr. Simi into a symbol of enthusiastic Mexican fandom. I mean, imagine you literally make a pharmacy hoping that you make this fun character to bring people into your pharmacy, and it turns into a cultural icon that even Harry Styles has touched a Dr. Simi doll. Truly, the invention of this character became so important and iconic to not only Mexican but Latin American culture in general. And of course, we cannot talk about Dr. Simi without then talking about Dr. Simi's TikTok. Dr. Simi's TikTok is what truly got me into the Dr. Simi universe. And in recent years, Dr. Simi's TikTok has become just as iconic, if not more, than some of its other plushie counterparts. Not only have the videos of the Dr. Simi dolls being thrown onto the stage at concerts become so viral on TikTok, but the Dr. Simi presence itself on TikTok is something that we need to talk about. Dr. Simi's TikTok is truly unhinged, in the same way that Duolingo or Wendy's or other companies have really honed in on making their brand approachable and human. Dr. Simi is no stranger to this. If you go to the Dr. Simi TikTok account, you will see thousands of videos of these talented Dr. Simi mascots dancing together, doing TikTok trends, and even breaking world records. Yes, Dr. Simi holds the world record for the most mascots dancing at the same time in a public forum. Like, can you believe that? This is a pharmacy. But this leads to an overall point about how important making your brand human and funny has really affected marketing in the recent years and with the rise of social media. More and more today, the memification of your brand is something so important. And if you have an iconic character like Chuck E. Cheese, Duolingo, or Dr. Simi, you can take your brand from simply being a product or service to being an icon in the society of the internet. Throughout the years, Dr. Simi and Farmacias Similares have done an excellent job of marketing their company, which truly goes to show how important your brand image is to taking your company from just a brand or service to being iconic. So between their incredible marketing, their amazing story, and truly their good mission of trying to make medicine accessible to the general public, what are the controversies of Dr. Simi? Now, before I went on this deep dive, I truly didn't know that Dr. Simi would ever have such a story like it has. But the more research I did, the more I realized that this company, like many large companies in this world, does not have its hands clean. Farmacias Similares and its founder, Victor González Torres, have been at the center of numerous controversies, ranging from allegations of unethical business practices and political manipulation to concerns about the quality of their medications. One of the biggest criticisms that Farmacias Similares has received over the years is some concerns about the quality of the medicine itself. Many doctors and experts over the years have questioned whether or not these drugs that are sold by Farmacias Similares, being that they are generic, are up to the quality and standards that maybe a name brand medicine would have. Some reports suggested that certain generic medications from Farmacias Similares do not meet the same bioequivalence standards as the original versions, meaning that they may not be absorbed by your body as effectively as a name brand drug, which in many countries is truly the risk that you take when you choose to buy more generic brands of medicine. I mean, the United States is no stranger to this issue. If you buy a generic brand, pretty much anything, whether it comes to food, medicine, or clothing, people might argue that it's a lower quality, being that it's produced at a lower cost. Despite these criticisms, the company insisted that its medications met regulatory standards and that they provide affordable healthcare alternatives, and they were providing affordable alternatives to low-income families in Mexico. Supporters also argued that the big pharmaceutical companies are behind these criticisms. Again, Sounds familiar. Big Pharma isn't exactly excited when a guy like Victor González Torres comes in and breaks the pharmaceutical industry, so it makes a lot of sense that these criticisms came about. A more concerning criticism about Farmacias Similares is its poor business practices. Some employees have frequently complained about low wages, lack of benefits, and poor working conditions for this company. Some former employees have even accused Farmacias Similares of using aggressive anti-union tactics to prevent workers from organizing for better conditions. And well, yeah, that's not very good. There have also been accusations that the company pressures drug suppliers to favor its products over competitors, potentially hurting smaller pharmacies and independent businesses. This is kind of a full circle moment for Farmacias Similares, considering that its whole point of being created was to break the monopoly of the pharmaceutical industry. It's like that saying, you either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain, and this was obviously seen as being true with Farmacias Similares. Some critics also argued that Farmacias Similares was marketing itself as a generic drug provider when in reality it was selling its own branded version of the generic, meaning that it still profited significantly from drug sales rather than simply promoting affordable medication. Again, this is kind of a matter of how you view business and medicine itself. Being that most people would probably argue that healthcare is a human right, I'm talking to you, United States. It is truly a good thing to make sure that we have a critical eye on pharmaceutical companies. And Farmacias Similares, despite its efforts to break the expensive healthcare industry in Mexico, is no stranger to its own criticism, which leads me into another controversy that the company faced: political manipulation. In 2006, Victor González Torres ran for the president of Mexico. This man went from being a family patriarch in the pharmaceutical industry to basically breaking the monopoly of medicine in Mexico, to creating a cultural icon of Dr. Simi, to then running for president. In 2006, Victor González Torres ran for the president of Mexico as an independent candidate, styling himself as El Dr. Simi, el amigo del pueblo. Dr. Simi, the people's friend. And well, calling yourself as a multimillionaire el amigo del pueblo doesn't always sit right with the general public. And the trend of businessmen running for president seemed to have taken a bit of a trend across the world. His campaign truly blurred the lines between business and politics, as he heavily used Farmacias Similares advertisements to promote himself. To a lot of people, this seemed like a slimy move. You're using a political campaign to basically co-promote your company, also framing yourself as a man of the people when you're also a multimillionaire. I mean, again, some people just felt this political campaign was pretty slimy. Overall, many people saw this presidential campaign as nothing more than a publicity stunt, which honestly, in my opinion, I kind of feel like it was too. Victor's name was not even on the ballot, but he encouraged people to basically write him in, hoping that, I don't know, I guess that he would become the president of Mexico. In the end, his political career was short run because he did lose the 2006 election, which was then won by a man named Felipe Calderón. González Torres did not achieve any political success, but did gain massive media attention, which I guess maybe in the end of the day was his goal, so I don't know if this was successful for him or not, but in the end he did want to be president for a short amount of time, which was highly criticized by the general public. Besides his political campaign, González Torres was no stranger to having some issues with the Mexican government. Over the years, he frequently clashed with the Mexican government, particularly with agencies like the COFEPRIS or the COFEPRIS, which attempted to regulate and investigate his business. González Torres had the pueblo behind his back, and he used them to his advantage. Whenever the Mexican government would come in and say, hey, we want to check the quality of your medicine, he would say, hey, try me, girl, I have the people behind my back, which oftentimes probably led to an unfair advantage for his business versus other smaller pharmaceutical companies. Some people also felt that the use of the Dr. Simi plushie was somewhat of a distraction against the controversies of the Dr. Simi company. While the mascot became a beloved figure, some critics also argued that it was a clever distraction from the pharmacy's questionable practices. I mean, you're not going to look in the direction of people complaining that you're not letting them unionize when you have a fun little dancing doctor to your side to distract the people from your business's controversies. This mascot itself was also no stranger to its own controversies and lawsuits. In 2017, a former employee of the company who claimed to help create the design for Dr. Simi actually ended up suing the company, claiming that they had stolen his original idea without properly compensating him. Of course, Farmacias Similares denied this accusation and settled the case quietly. Several times over the years, Mexico's health regulatory agency, COFEPRIS, has investigated and fined Farmacias Similares for allegedly having misleading advertising, selling improperly labeled medications, and failing to meet certain health standards. Farmacias Similares often responds to these claims, basically saying the government is biased in favor of big name drugs, rather than our quaint tiny company company of Farmacias Similares, which by the way at the time had basically its own monopoly over Mexico. Some people also had concerns of the nature of the practices done by the Farmacias Similares across Latin America and Mexico. Many argued that Farmacias Similares doctors were underpaid and overworked, keeping costs low and customers happy, but their own business employees not very happy. Again, when you mix medicine, doctors, and business, things can get pretty tricky, and Farmacias Similares was no stranger to some pretty sketchy business practices. Despite these criticisms, the general public truly believed in this company and its ability to provide affordable medicine to the general public. Many Mexicans who could not afford private healthcare saw these clinics as truly their only option for medical advice. Some also argued that something is better than nothing and that Farmacias Similares fills a healthcare gap in Mexico's struggling medical system. And this to me is an excellent point. I mean, coming from a country like the United States, where our healthcare system is absurdly overpriced for most people, I truly think that it's an amazing and incredible practice done by this company to be able to provide medicine to the general public. On the other hand, it's important to note, cheap medicine, but at the cost of who? When you provide cheap goods, somebody's gonna have to suffer. And in many cases, the own employees of Farmacias Similares were the ones that had to take the short end of the stick. So while we're doing something great for a lot of people, we're also probably hurting some of those who made these operations possible. Now, whatever you feel about the controversy of Farmacias Similares, the company itself had a vision beyond Mexico, bringing affordable healthcare to all of Latin America. Farmacias Similares began expanding into other Latin American countries in the early 2000s, with a focus on countries like Guatemala, El Salvador, Venezuela, and even Chile. In the United States, particularly in areas with large Mexican populations, Dr. Simi and Farmacias Similares began to gain traction in the early 2010s. Even myself growing up in California, I remember as a kid seeing people talking about Dr. Simi, having his plush dolls, and even seeing videos of this mascot dancing all around Mexico. And in fact, in March of 2025, Farmacias Similares even announced that they're planning on soon entering the US market. Truly, the story of Dr. Simi to me is one that's incredible and very, very interesting. While many know about the company's iconic icon of course, our boy Dr. Simi, many probably don't know about the controversies, the history, and the true struggle that it was to bring Dr. Simi and generic drugs to the general market of Mexico. Dr. Simi, in a way, isn't just a mascot. He's a mirror reflecting the struggles, contradictions, and realities of the Latin American healthcare market. He's both a lifeline and a loophole. He's a symbol of joy and laughter, but also of inequality in Latin America. To me, Dr. Simi and his character is one of the ways that I truly enjoy our modern interpretation of brands on the internet. It has become so important to make brands something that are reachable and enjoyable by the general public rather than something so business formal like we enjoyed in the past. While I don't think that Farmacias Similares is a company that has its hands clean, pretty much like 99% of companies out there, I do think that its mission to bring affordable healthcare to Latin America is one that's truly inspiring. As somebody from the United States, I hope that a company comes out here that achieves the same thing for us that has been achieved in Latin America, as getting access to your medications here is an issue, to say the least. But something I'm curious about is, what do you guys think about this company? Do you think that Dr. Simi is a distraction from the reality of the horrors of the pharmaceutical industry? Or do you believe in the mission too that Dr. Simi brings to the world? Personally, I'm inspired by this story. It was very interesting to learn more about it, and I want to know, what are your thoughts on the story of Dr. Simi? So next time you see a Dr. Simi plushie flying through the air at a concert, think to yourself, is this a corporate strategy to distract us from the realities of the pharmaceutical industry? Or is this a cultural icon that goes beyond the company itself? Comment your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredibly deep dive of the Farmacias Similares company, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.